Um, First up, Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Officially calling the April 16th school committee meeting to order. Agenda is kind of long tonight, so we will move right along. First up is the Student Spotlight Series. I will turn it over to Dr. O'Neill.
All right, good evening. I am very excited tonight to introduce Mrs. Jen Young and Mrs. Michelle King with their Norton High School Cubers. So I'll invite everyone to come up and they'll give us a presentation. All right, we don't have everyone. The club is a little bigger, but we have Sarah, Liliana, Samantha, Abby, and Kaylin, and they're going to tell you a little bit about what we do, and they're going to do a really quick demonstration after of a very small scale
So we took our show to middle school one day, and Mrs. Bridges organized the whole thing, so we saw every kid in school, and that kind of got some, but yeah, Abby's been our great high school recruiter, and I'm very concerned because
Nice job,
all
Abby.
seniors, and I'm a little worried about what's coming down with that.
Wow. Amazing job. Thank you guys so much for sharing with us. That's so cool. Mrs. Young, can we keep it and I'll return it to you tomorrow?
I'm gonna stick around anyway, so.
Perfect.
Yeah, don't worry, yes, it can stay.
Thank you very much. Next up is public hearing and vote on school choice participation for 25-26.
All right, thank you. I think I have to go over to the.
Do I have to open, I have to open this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing on school choice participation for 25-26 school year. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right, thank you. So I have some information to share tonight based on questions that were asked at our last meeting and some additional data that I've pulled together for everyone. So I'm going to go quickly through these slides and then we can open it for discussion. So one of the conversations that we've had recently is where are our school choice students coming from? As most of you know, we currently have 238 school choice students. That number increased just last month from 231 because we had two families that were originally here in Norton that ended up moving out of town, but they stayed as part of our district. So the majority of our students come from two communities. They come from Taunton, 106 students, and then Attleboro. We also have 14 students from Rehoboth, 10 from Mansfield, 8 from Brockton, 8 from Rainham, and then 5 from North Attleboro. 7 from Easton. The rest are more ones and twos, and often those are our staff bringing their own children with them from their home community. I also wanted to share some data around the difference between Norton students and our school choice students. And as you'll see today, there's really not a lot of differences between our Norton students and our school choice students. The numbers are pretty close. So Norton enrolled students, we have 2,155 students versus our 238 school choice students. The special education populations are pretty closely aligned, 24.8 versus 26.5. The number of students on 504s, we have 9.3% of our Norton students and then 5.4% of our choice students. And then we're up to actually 70 English learners here in Norton, which I was actually really surprised when I saw that number because when I started overseeing the English language program, we had 4 students and that has grown significantly. And we actually have 0 choice students that are considered Ls. I think it's almost like talking about the elephant in the room. And I had a great conversation earlier this week with one of our school committee members, and we were talking about the fact that there's a big perception that the school choice students are exhausting our system. And what does that look like? And so what we did was we pulled a little bit of data to kind of show the differences between Norton students and school choice students. And I think it's really important for us to remember that when we're having this conversation is that we're talking about kids. And that, the large majority of our school choice families have been looking for an opportunity to provide their students with a better educational chance. And, maybe they're living somewhere that's a little bit more urban, or maybe they're working here and they want their children to be with them. They know how great their colleagues are and they want, their children to have that experience. So I'm going to go through some special education data for you, some intervention data, and then also some student discipline data. So this year, this is our total number of referrals for special education as a whole, and there are over 200. So 11% of those are school choice, 88% is Norton, and about 0.3% are our homeless population. And so this is important for us to know that this includes all evaluations that are taking place throughout the course of the year. This is students that may be involved in a reevaluation. We do those every 3 years for all students on an IEP. It could be an initial evaluation. It could be that we're just looking for more information about a student, or perhaps that we think that maybe they needed more of a structured placement. And so you can see when we take a look at this data, our residents are at the top left, where school choice is at the bottom right. The reevaluations are both in red. 64% of our, or about 65% of our Norton students was a reeval, about 58% of the school choice was a reeval. Initials in both categories, 21 versus 26. Extended eval, 1.2 versus 2.9, and then the additional information was roughly around 12% for both groups. So nothing that's really statistically significant when we look at these numbers. And it's also, you know, one student or two students on an extended eval out of 63 is different than, you know, one or two students on an extended eval out of 500 plus. So the percentages, I think, help us look at that a little bit more closely. And of those evaluations that we did this year, 45% of our Norton students were found eligible. And again, this is not new eligibility. Could be for students that were doing their reevaluation and we found that they're still eligible. Versus 47% of choice. 16% of our Norton students were found not eligible versus 18% of choice. And then as you can see, we still have between 30 to 40% of eligibility statuses that have not yet been determined. So they're either in an active placement and we're waiting for feedback, or they're still going through that evaluation process. The IEP has not yet been signed. I also pulled some information about elementary interventions. As you know, this year we had to see a reduction in our intervention services at the elementary level. We were able to bring back some support after the fall town meeting. But it's a low percentage of students that are receiving. I actually was honestly really surprised about some of these numbers. I was like, oh, I hope we're not missing anybody, seeing that, you know, at LGN or JCS is only 6 or 3 school choice students that are receiving intervention. And then obviously at the Yale School, 33 total versus 4. That's because we only have that one interventionist at the Yale School right now. So their ability to see, they can't see 82 students because they're only one person. And then if you look at the discipline data, one of the great things that we have is something called SWIS, SWIS, and what we do district-wide at all 5 schools is we update all of our student discipline data into the single system so we can pull all of our referrals. So this year there's been 1,077 referrals. 300 of the, so and what I did too was I looked at, okay, how many kids does that really mean? Because while the Norton students have 960 referrals, that's only 317 students, right? Versus 117 choice referrals, that's 34 students. And I think the thing that's important for us to remember is every kid has a bad day. You know, every kid can have 1 or 2 referrals. So I wanted to make sure that we were showing like really what the number of students were. And you can see the percentage of the resident students with referrals is 14.7, where the percentage of choice with referrals is 14.2. Again, very, very close to each other when we're taking a look at some of this data. So I've actually shared this data previously with the school committee, and I wanted to make sure that I addressed some of these concerns here tonight. I think there is definitely a lot of conversations that are happening in our school community about choice and about the ways that they're impacting our classrooms and our schools. So I did think this is important to share with you so you can all see that the numbers are pretty similar. The other big question that we always talk about is special education reimbursement. So my friend Karen Winsper is going to say there is way too much on this slide and it is very teeny tiny. And I can't see her face, but I'm sure she's nodding right now. But what we've done in the past is said, okay, this is what we're getting for special education reimbursement. But we took that a step further this year, and I want to say thank you to Mrs. Hadfield, and then to Mrs. Russo, and to Ms. Sanborn and her office for pulling all this information together. What we did is we looked at every single choice student and the services that they were receiving Then we talked about the actual cost. We looked at, okay, as you can see, the first column says special education teacher. Where you guys see those dark, heavy lines, each time you see a dark, heavy line, like underneath the third line down, so you see 76, 19, 38, and then you see two blank lines and you see a dark, heavy line. Each heavy line denotes a different student. So tonight we're looking at 6 different students. So we said, okay, what are we getting reimbursed for the special education teacher? What are we getting reimbursed for the speech and language pathologist, occupational therapist, counseling, PT, BCBA, or a paraprofessional? And then we said, what is the actual cost for that person? So Casey and Christine and Alex sat down and they said, okay, this is student number 1. Who is their special education teacher? How many students are in that group? What is the hourly rate? If there are 4 students in a group, divide the hourly rate by 4. So I want you all to know the level of detail that went into this analysis, and it was a huge amount of work, but I actually think it's really, really beneficial so we can all see what the actual numbers are. So as you can see, the first student gets support from a special education teacher. What we're reimbursed versus the actual cost. They also get counseling services, what we are reimbursed from the actual cost. And then you'll move across the column, the total cost to educate the child for special education, special education reimbursement, and the difference. So here you can see that we're paying, or it's costing us $822.04 more than what we are receiving in reimbursement. And if you do that for just one student, you might get nervous. But we did it for all 63. So if we go down to the next student, what are we paying for the special education teacher versus what is our cost versus what are we being reimbursed? And in that case, we're actually collecting $1,200 more than it is costing us. I think you guys get how we did this and went through this. So as you can see, student number 3, special education teacher and OT. Again, in that case, it's costing us more than we're being reimbursed. Student 4, special education teacher only. Student 5, special education teacher, speech, OT, and BCBA support. Cost versus reimbursement. And then student 6, special education teacher, speech, OT, counseling, PT. What is the cost versus the reimbursement? Now, I think the important thing for us to know is that these numbers are going to change all the time. If we were to do this each and every year, I might be working with one educator that is a veteran staff member, and the next year, my speech therapist might be someone who's brand new to Norton. So those numbers are going to change. And so what the cost for services versus the reimbursement is going to fluctuate year over year. But the total cost for services is $330,226.51. The total reimbursement is $353,091.62, which is a difference to the good for Norton schools of $16,871. So we are actually being reimbursed $16,000 more than we are spending to provide these services to these students. And the other thing I want to mention is that this does not include the $5,000 that we get for every single pupil that comes in through the school choice program. So that's 63 times 5, that is on top of these costs. Are there any questions about that before I move on? Because I know that's a lot of information. No? Okay. One of the things we also did was we reached out to staff to see our staff interested in bringing their students to Norton for next year. And we also took a look at our current kindergarten enrollment to see how many of those students are siblings of current school choice students. So siblings, we have 3 rising kindergartners at JCS and 1 rising kindergartner at LGN for a total of 4. And then we have 3 staff members that are interested in bringing their children to school that are not currently siblings. So 1 in grade 5, 1 in grade 6, and 1 in grade 8. And then we have the recommendation. So based on the conversation that we had last time, I'm recommending an additional 2 students in grade 2 at LGN to take a look at those class sizes there. As we've discussed before, the 7th graders are our smallest cohort district-wide. I'm thinking we can add 2 there. And then we also lose a number of students between 8th grade and 9th grade. Some students go to Southeastern Regional. Some students go to Xaverian or Bishop Fian. And so that is a total of 7 spots. So we can open up for public comment or any questions that the committee might have.
So, Dr. O'Neill, you have 7 spots as your recommendation, but it would be in addition to the staff members' spots.
Correct. So I think
So
that's
all
14 total.
Okay.
So 4 plus, 7, 14 total.
I just want to thank the staff that put this together. I think this is the most detailed we've ever seen regarding this program. So I know it was not easy for the staff, but I do commend them for their work. This definitely puts a lot more into perspective when it comes to the program. So thank you to Casey, Mrs. Sanborn, Mrs. Hadfield. So just want to make sure we thank them and give them their credit where it's due.
Agreed.
I was going to say the same thing. I know I was the one who called for a lot of this information, but I think it's necessary when we're looking at our numbers here.
I guess we'll open it up to any public comment. Awesome. All right. Any other questions, concerns, suggestions from the school committee?
I also just wanted to reiterate, because I was also part of a lot of the conversations around school choice, and thank you to the whole admin team that put all of that time and effort. And I think this is extremely helpful, and I hope maybe going forward we can sort of continue with some of it, just to be able to document and really know where school choice openings are potentially there, and where we might want to hold back a little bit as well going forward. I do think that school choice is a benefit. I just think that as a district we need to find that number that's sort of in that sweet spot of where are we going to be able to provide the services and not put a strain on staff and caseloads. So again, just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate it.
Can I comment on that part? Sorry.
Absolutely. Just come on up.
You said public comment and then you said stop. Hi, I'm Shannon Taylor. I am a special needs teacher at the J.C. Solomons. There are so many other things that we could look at about what's exhausting teachers right now, and it's not school choice. Having kids here in our buildings, I didn't even know some of my kids were school choice until I was like really looking at their IEP, and I was like, oh wow, you don't live in Norton. And like it doesn't, these kids bring so much to our community, and just like every kid, like right, that's why we're here. The significant strains that personally, if I'm just talking myself, sorry Casey and Vinny, is, I have 17 students on my caseload and I'm one special ed teacher. 17, and that's just me. And I think I'm pretty great, but when you're looking at splitting me between 17 people, that's really hard. And I'm doing the best that I can, but we're trying to provide the service. And like today, I was pulled to sub for an hour and a half because we didn't have a sub for an IEP meeting. Am I happy to do that? Yeah, I need to help my colleagues, and this is an opportunity I could do that. And thankfully, my principal is doing a really good job of, if I need to be pulled, I'm subbing for a classroom I'm already in. So I do get to kind of see my kids and provide some differentiation. But there's other things that we can certainly look at to be able to give time back to teachers so that we don't feel so stressed and burnt out, and be able to find ways back in. But I don't think the school choice is necessarily the way, and I really hope that we can keep these conversations on how to keep moving forward so that we can reduce the stress load on not just the teachers but on the kids as well, because I'm not my best self if I'm thinking about 16 other things, the same way no person is. But I think that's where we'd like to be able to work with you guys on how to get there. I appreciate you guys looking to find ways to find the money, like maybe it was somewhere, maybe we could save, all for that. We've been trying to figure this out for years. But I think at times, it's just that we have a lot of kids that we're trying to provide support to, and not just special education referrals, but also, like Dr. O'Neill, very sorry, Dr. O'Neill was saying, getting those interventionists back was massive for us, especially at JCS and LGN, so I can see 27 kids in a class next year at Hay. That sounds stressful. Those are kind of the things that I would be looking at, is how can we support that, and how can we get some better early intervention so that we can get to these kids before we have to worry about it later down the line. And I want as many kids as I can have, please know that. I love all of my students. The Spring Fling that was this past weekend just completely warmed my heart to see everyone running around and having such a great time. Having LGN, JCS, and Hay together, wow, I was overwhelmed. But you saw me, Audrey, my face was, woo. But I just want to say again, like, there's other things that we can think of, and if you guys want to continue to work with us, we really appreciate that, because there are things we can do, let's just find the ways.
How do you follow that? Sorry, Jen Farley, I work at the JCS, and I know it came up before about our school choice kiddos and staff and caseload, and Shannon really hit on a lot of that. But when we're pulled to sub, it's not because of our school choice kiddos, it's because of a substitute problem. Our school choice kiddos, they're just one of our kids. They're part of our community. They help create Norton in our school system. And I think about some of the school choice kiddos that I've seen grow and mature, and now they're at the high school level, and they would not have had those possibilities if they didn't come to Norton. And as a parent, I can't imagine if I were in the other parent's shoes. So we do really amazing things here in the Norton School District, and I want to keep providing those services. And like Shannon said, those kids are our kids. Bring them on, all of our students. But thank you for the breakdown. That was helpful to see. And we're here to help support and work with you guys. Thanks.
Any other comments? I just want to make sure we clarify one thing, just because I feel like this always comes up. School choice, the students who are here and the siblings who are here for until they graduate with us. So, whatever we do with school choice, all of the students who are here will remain in Norton schools until either they leave or they graduate. And then, I guess my only thing, Dr. O'Neill, would be, would you entertain taking second grade LGN, those 2 spots, and moving them to the high school in maybe like 10th grade? And why I say that is, again, those class sizes are, 18 for both, well, I guess it's a little bit bigger at JCS, but I feel like just moving those, we know we have the siblings coming in for kindergarten. I feel like we're going to kind of backfill a little bit already on that side of things. And then again, the nice thing about doing it a little bit later, where we do have a lot of our students go to, whether it be Feehan or Southeastern, that 8th to 9th grade, and filling it at the high school level to me makes a little bit more sense. Just because again, the class sizes as they get a little bit bigger, to me it's just a little different. So I'm not against doing 7. I would just entertain or look at, would you be open to moving that till 10th?
I think we have 2 options. So we could add 2 in 10th and make it actually 9, based on my poor math the other day. Or we could move those we can take the spots out of second grade and move it to grade 10. I'd say it's really what the committee thinks is best, and we can go from there.
I think my thoughts on it are, I wouldn't mind adding more spots. It is what it is. I would say we could add the 2 spots at the high school and keep the 2 at the LG, because in my thought process with school choice is if the kids are here at a younger age, then they're more likely to stay, versus we may not get too many new kids at the high school level versus at the LG level. But I mean, whatever vote is going to be put in front of me will be a yes for me, so that's just a matter of semantics on the number.
Any other thoughts? I mean, we definitely can have the space at the high school. My recommendation for the 2nd grade was to just make those numbers a little bit more consistent across those 2 buildings. The JCS will be about 21.4 as the average class size, versus we have a, the LGN will be 18. So even those 2 spots, it would be 18 or 19 in those classrooms, but that is certainly up to the committee.
I agree with Dan. I mean, I would be fine with adding 2 for 10th grade, but I would be fine with leaving the 2 for 2nd grade as well.
I'd rather see him at the high school, personally.
I'd also rather see him at the high school.
So we can keep the number of 7 and move the 2 from LGN to the high school?
And I mean, I guess I wouldn't even be opposed that, I mean, if we just did a quote-unquote 5 at the high school between 9th and 10th grade, I think that would almost maybe give us a little bit better of a chance, I don't know. So if it was 5 in 9th grade, or 3 and 2, or 2 and 3, I feel like that would be a little bit better. And then obviously, 7th grade being a smaller class, it kind of makes sense to put some there.
I'd have to look and see if we could do it this way, but we might be able to say 5 in grades 9 and 10. So like depending on what way the enrollments come in, if you had 4 9th graders and 1 10th grader, you could do that. I'll have to double check legally if we can do it that way, but I don't see why not. So if we say 5 at the high school in grades 9 and 10. So that would bring our number to 8, I believe.
And then one more thing here, and I know this is an issue across a lot of districts. I would love for us to put some serious pressure on students who are going to school in Norton but do not live here. And again, I know legally there's some challenges to it, but I would really like to see a push from administration to make sure. I would be honestly open to turning those kids into school choice immediately. And then that way we're actually getting some money back from them and some reimbursement. So I would be open to also entertaining of, giving a final, hey, this is your last call. And then if we do catch people who are not residents in Norton but attending school here and they're not a part of the school choice program, we try to do a little bit of follow-up there.
That's definitely something that we're working on. It's difficult because legally we don't have a lot of anything behind us is really what it comes down to. So those are some conversations that we're having.
Ms. Green?
I just had a quick question. Is there a significance to the 9 or 7 number? Is that the lowest you can go? Or because did you have to move them for 2 to the high school, or like to maintain that number? Or
We could go down
is
to
it
1.
Sorry, I didn't know where it was coming from.
Zero.
You could go down to 0, but that has consequences. But I mean, like, you could go down to 1 and stuff. So there was no need to really shuffle them. You just could.
No, it's just
remove
based,
them in
the original 7 was just based on recommendations. And I apparently couldn't do math earlier this week and said 2 plus 2 was 9. So
It's been a
it
long.
must have been a long way to
That common core math.
And the recommendations are based on the class sizes and what was the number coming from? Like, what was the decision on that one?
My recommendations were just based on current class size, what we're projecting for next year, and just data trends and how we know kids are coming and going.
Okay, thank you.
Dinesh, welcome back.
Great to be back. Dinesh Savas by Burma Drive. I apologize. I have not followed any of this since last April. So I'm a little bit out of the loop. I wanted to ask, and it's all well and good that we've done the special ed analysis. have we done an analysis on the non-special ed? Have we figured out, first of all, if it's profitable? I believe it is. I think I've historically been an advocate of school choice, as you know. That being said, at the same time, and I think this will be kind of near and dear to Nick's heart, that $5,000 number hasn't moved in
1993.
1983.
93.
93, sorry. 83, 93, doesn't matter that much, right? So there is gonna come a time when there's an inflection point where, or maybe there's not. If there's an inflection point of, okay, when we reach this number of kids, we're no longer profitable. We should know what that number is. And if there's not an inflection point, we should know what that number is too. Because there is a possibility that there is actually a theoretically infinite number of kids that we can add. Because if we can add enough kids and still hire a teacher under that, we may want to look at that, right? It's a revenue stream, so we should know, is this revenue stream profitable or not, and where does that profitability stop? And I'm surprised Nick has not said this yet, because he used to say it all the time. We need to start pressuring the state and saying that $5,000 number is the wrong number. It's not even close anymore. And I do think that it's still profitable because of the variable and fixed costs that I talked about forever. But that being said, it's not going to be profitable forever because costs go up. At some point, that $5,000 is going to become not enough to meet the needs of each of these kids. So I guess my two things are, first of all, you got to put pressure on the state, that number has to go up. And the second part is you really need to do a full analysis of the entirety of the program to see where it's profitable, where it's not, et cetera. And maybe 7's not, maybe 17 is the right number. Maybe we can actually add more. And I get, Jen, you're doing it on the class size and trying not to increase the class sizes. But there is the possibility we can add a whole new class with a whole new teacher. And if it's profitable, do it. At some point, there's the education part of this, but there's the business part of this too, right? School choice is not something that we do because we're being altruistic and we love the neighboring towns. We're doing it because we want to bring in revenue. And we want to maximize that revenue as much as we can. So that's it. Nice to see you guys. Way nicer place than we do.
You were just at the wrong meeting, Dinesh. Nick always says the numbers too low.
I feel just missed it.
Yeah, I mean, I think to Dinesh's point, I kind of had a conversation with Jen about this earlier. If you want to stay with me for a second. From a money standpoint, right, we have 63 kids who are in our special ed program, plus the $16,000 in reimbursement, plus the $5,000 that we get from the state. That's $331,000 that we get from our special ed students on school choice. That leaves us 168 general ed kids. That's $5,000 a piece. We don't get anything else from them. That's $840,000. So if you take those two numbers, it's $1.171 million in school choice funding. Now again, me and Dinesh have had some good conversations around per pupil spending in Norton. And again, 19, we're just shy of 20,000, per the DESE website. I've obviously had some conversations with Dr. O'Neill about this as well. But if we're looking, even if we're spending $12,000 per student, if you take those 231 kids, take the $5,000, they're costing Norton $7,000 to come here. Now again, back to Dinesh's point of filling classrooms and keeping the lights on and teachers and so on and so forth, but that's $1.617 million. I mean, the difference, by just doing it that way, if we only spend $12,000 per student in Norton, you're looking at, on paper, we're actually running a deficit, from a school choice standpoint. Now, without the full analysis, it's very difficult to find out exactly where that falls. How many kids and what is that exact number? I just have always gone back. I know we have a lot of smart teachers here. We have an outstanding administrative staff. We have 231 kids in our school choice program. The closest district to us is 75. You cannot tell me there's not another district sitting there being like, this is so profitable. All these districts are struggling for money. Why haven't they opened up for school choice and have flooded their schools with school choice students? I know Mansfield just opened it. They're obviously way far behind. And again, we've done this for a while. We kind of, maybe if you want to say we jumped ahead of it a little earlier than most. But I do think, something's got to give here, and you know, I think that number is just extremely high. So I think, and again, I'm not against choice. I've said this 1,000 times over and over again. A lot of these kids, you know, I'm friends with their parents, and they're, you know, involved in baseball and everything else. You know, it's not that. It's the simple fact of is this actually worth it? Is it worth adding to Shannon, even if it's 3? We added 3 school choice students to Shannon's, you know, caseload. That's now 17. That's now down to 14. You know, now again, people will never get removed out. But if we kind of freeze it for a little bit here, let it catch up a little bit, let us get to a good point, I feel like that might be the right move. But again, it's kind of impossible to tell until you run every single report and know every little thing and know how much, you know, each kid is 100% costing us. So.
Hello, Laura Gustafson, 9 Allen Drive. I have a couple of questions that I'm just wrapping my brain around trying to understand. Okay, so when we're talking about per pupil expenditure, that is the total operational cost of everything divvied up amongst the student population. Yes? Okay. So, in theory, if those 231 students didn't exist, the per pupil expenditure would still be there. It would just be higher because it would be divvied out amongst this student population versus this student population, correct? Am I right on that? Okay. So then, in theory, if we're going to use the 12,000 as an example, how much, approximately, would that $12,000 be that is completely consumable, non-refundable, that that child walks away with, i.e. workbooks, school supplies, paper, things like that, that actually get burned up? Not electricity, not any of that, because as we've said, that stuff continuously exists. What I'm curious is an approximate amount of money that that child actually costs that goes away, that doesn't exist anymore. So what would we say, about $500 of things that, like how, I'm just wrapping my brain around this idea of per pupil expenditure, population, what those numbers actually really are in terms of this idea of there being a deficit versus not a deficit, like hard money that actually goes away.
I think I can't really answer that because to Dinez's point, and this was something that we talked about last year as well, is we have not done the analysis of what that number would be, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at, you know, the school choice numbers that we have here right now. You know, JCS third grade we have 5 school choice students, LGN third grade we have 8 school choice students. Neither of those grade levels would change in terms of the number of teachers that we have there, because you wouldn't be able to cut a whole class for that. 4th grade we have 21 school choice students. Perhaps you could cut a whole teacher there. So I think it's not a black and white answer, because you would have to go through and kind of figure that piece out. What do we spend on curriculum and supplies and paper towels and toilet paper and all of those things that, you know, are
the hard money, the actual hard money. Correct. It's really not 12,000 in our 12,000 world. Correct. Like that.
Unless it comes down to adding or subtracting staff, that's where the hard money comes in.
But the way that this has been delineated out, that's not so much of a thing, maybe minus that 1 4th grade staff member in theory, correct? In theory.
In theory.
In theory. Okay. Thank you.
All right, I think between last meeting and this meeting, we've kind of hashed this whole thing out. Someone want to make a motion? Oh, we're going to close it. Do we got to close it first and then vote?
I would vote and then close it, because the vote is part of the hearing.
Perfect.
Make a motion to approve the superintendent's school choice recommendation as presented.
So moved.
You can just, didn't you just second it? Yeah. Yes, because he made the motion.
Motions.
Yes. So seconded, all right. Motion by Dan, seconded by Sherry. So all those in favor of supporting Dr. O'Neill's recommendation?
Is that the
She's gonna
9th and
change.
10th grade,
Uh,
or what was on
No,
here?
that's, Dan is going with what the recommendation was. So the recommendation that, from Jen, which was on this paper, not my little thing about moving two people. So the motion that Dan is reading is a recommendation from Superintendent O'Neill, which is the numbers you have. So we have a motion by Dan, a second by Sherry. All those in favor?
Aye.
2. All those opposed? Aye. So that motion fails. Do we have another motion?
All right, I motion to do the amended school choice numbers with 7th grade as 2 and then 9th and 10th grade as 5.
7th grade or 2nd grade?
7th,
I thought we were talking about moving the 2 spots out of LG.
right, and that was moved to 9th and 10th.
Could you just do me a favor? Do that motion over and just read how many students in each grade so everyone knows and it's official public record.
Okay, so I motion for school choice for the following 2025-26 school year to include, you want me to go grade by grade? 1st grade 0, 2nd grade 0, 3rd grade 0, 4th grade 0, 5th grade 0, 6th grade 0, 7th grade 2, 8th grade 0, 9th and 10th grade 5.
Second.
All those in favor? 3. So that motion passes. All those opposed? 2. So that motion passes 3-2. School choice is good to go.
The third motion? Thank you.
All right.
I have to close the hearing.
Yes, and I will take a motion to close the public hearing on school choice participation.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now we're back into public comment period for our normal April 16th agenda. Is there anybody in the public who has anything to say? Good. Moving on. Vote to approve the minutes of March 26, 2025, open session meeting. School committee, did everyone get a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Cohen with warrants.
I reviewed and approved the following warrants. School expense warrant, March 26, 2025, $309,993.88. School payroll warrants, March 20th, 2025, $1,140,006.07. I wish to enter that into public record.
Well done, Mr.
I was just about to say, the last warrant read.
Thank you.
Next up, Justin Antonio with student rep update.
All right, good evening, everyone. From the JCS, last week our second graders had an opportunity to work with staff from Science and Engineering Education Development, SEED Inc., on designing prosthetics for injured dogs. Teams of second grade students worked together on coming up with a design using available resources and then had a chance to test their designs on stuffed dogs. This week, our entire school community is gearing up for your JCS Fun Run, which is being held outdoors through the school day. Parents and guardians will have the opportunity to come and cheer on their students as they run. And then from the Yell, this week they're getting ready for April break. Students are doing well-finished things up before the vacation. This week is our final of our 2025 ST March Madness tournament with our 15 homerooms all matched up against one another in a bracket-style tournament competing. We're looking for each student to do their 60 required puzzles per week, with the class with the better percentages moving on to the next round. The first round has homerooms from 5th grade versus 4th grade, and our final 2 homerooms are Ms. Lean's 4th grade and Ms. Hannon / Ms. Winter's 5th grade homeroom. It's been an intense battle, and we'll be crowning our 2025 ST March Madness champion after this week's final competition. A couple of weeks ago, our students did a fantastic job on their ELA MCAS, putting in excellent effort, taking their time and making sure they answered all the questions and all parts of the open responses. During the MCAS days, our students start the morning with a morning recess, then a snack in the cafeteria with all their friends, and we move their specials to the afternoon so that the day is pretty enjoyable one for our students, and they deserve it for the effort they put in. We are so proud of them. Last Friday night, April 11th, we had our Hey PTO Music Bingo event. There were prizes, concessions, music, and lots of family fun. It was a great night for all of those involved. After break, we are getting ready for our math MCAS for both grades and science MCAS for 5th grades. All I ask again is for our students to put forth their best efforts. And then from the middle school sports are in full swing with both our basketball and softball teams off to good starts this season. The girls are currently undefeated, and the boys only loss this season came in an extra inning yesterday when they lost 1-0. MCAS season is well underway at NMS, and all 3 grades have completed the ELA portion of the exam. Clubs continue to roll along with at NMS, with many of our clubs doing some cool and exciting things. Our woodworking club recently finished their American flag projects. The Rubik's Cube Club recently finished their latest Rubik's Cube portrait of Mr. Abdul, which is on display in the Rotunda. The Literary Magazine Club is getting ready to publish their magazines of student work, and the Drama Club is creeping closer to their show times for Annie on June 22nd and June 23rd. A group of students led by Benson Chang and Vanessa Lee traveled out to the Forest Grove Middle School in Worcester to do a workshop for the Playbook Initiative and Project 351. Approximately 30 students traveled to Worcester to discuss issues related to race, bias, and discrimination. This trip served as an eye-opening and educational experience for both groups of students. Lastly, NMS is working on gathering materials for our time capsule and getting ready to open our time capsule, which has been buried by the flagpole for the past 25 years. And then last but not least, from the high school, the big thing at the high school this week is the battle of the grades. The seniors are winning by a lot right now. Students have been dressing up for spirit days all week with the battle accumulating in Friday's half day, where students will compete against each other in activities to earn their grades points. Seniors have been winning for the past 2 years now, just saying. There will be a pep rally at the end of the day crowning the winning grade. We also have 35 industries, schools, and other organizations going to present for juniors and seniors at the Opportunities Fair tomorrow. That's all I have for you.
Thank you very much. We're going to skip the next agenda item on AD, so we're going to go directly to number 8, which is updates on Reed's DHH program. Dr. O'Neill and Mrs. Medeiros.
All right, thank you. I'd like to invite my colleague Dina Medeiros up to the podium to share some info about the Reed's program.
Thank you, Dr. O'Neill, and thank you to the school committee members. This is actually a presentation that I created for the board of directors for Reed's Collaborative. Norton is one of our esteemed members, as are 19 other communities. As of July 1st, we have added Whitman, Hanson, and Brockton, the city of Brockton, as among our members. One of the programs that we are very proud of is the Reed's Deaf and Hard of Hearing program. For the past 10 plus years, the Reed's Deaf and Hard of Hearing program has been hosted by your community, by Norton Public Schools. As a relatively new executive director, I became the executive director July of 2023. I was told very clearly by the program director at the time, Dina, we love being in Norton, and it is a wonderful relationship. Our kids love it, our staff loves it. Whatever you do, preserve this relationship. It's been so rewarding, and we are more than pleased to be part of your wonderful community and to be accepted by your staff and students and administration. I was sad to hear that over the years that hasn't always been the case for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program. The Deaf and Hard of Hearing program has been housed in other communities or different portions of the program, and they haven't always felt the warmth and the warm welcome that you all provide for them. And that means a lot. It means a lot when you're on the fringe, when you aren't always able to communicate with all the adults and the peers. Some of our staff are also deaf. So I can't say enough about all the wonderful things I heard about Norton. And I can honestly say, after being the executive director for a year and a half, and then some, everything I heard was clearly not an exaggeration. So again, a sincere gratitude for all that Norton has done to work collaboratively with Reed's. As I started with Reed's, it did become apparent that space has become an increased issue. The Reed's Deaf and Hard of Hearing program is continuing to grow. There is a continued need for our services, as well as there's continued need within your own district for providing specialized services for your students, as is the right thing to do. It is to keep students within your own community, and as such, more and more communities are building programs within. So students that you would typically send out of district, you're trying to keep in your district. It saves money and it's the right thing to do for kids. So absolutely the right thing. So we have our program growing. We do need a couple of additional classrooms, but we also have Norton needing the spaces that we currently use. So what I have here is just a synopsis. For those of you who don't know me, I probably can't talk a dog off a meat wagon, so I will try to speed it up from here on out. And just letting you know the situation and how it became apparent to me. Again, historically, I can only go back till July 2023. So just to kind of present Reed's Deaf and Hard of Hearing program by the numbers here in Norton. When I did present this, I did also include that we have a program at BP, and you'll see that that's delineated. But currently, for this school year, and the numbers as of 1/29, which really are similar numbers for right now, we do have 2 or 3 pending referrals, but we are currently still at 52 students enrolled pre-K to grade 12 within the whole program. Keeping in mind 7 students are at BP, so you have 45 here physically in Norton. In preschool, there are 9 students. We don't typically have our preschool students included in any of the mainstream classes in Norton, simply because our little ones are really just trying to acquire language. Some of them have parents who are hearing, some of them have parents who are deaf, but they really are trying to just acquire the basic foundation skills for language, and having that substantially separate class time is really what they need. They might see friends potentially at recess or playtime, but it's not really an inclusive program. The rest of the programming, K through 12, we do try to offer inclusive opportunities, and we are grateful for that opportunity. That really is what makes our program stand out in our area and in the state of Massachusetts. We just had a family travel from another state, from Washington State actually. They're traveling to different states to see which program would be best for their child, and they are willing to move to whatever state will provide the programming for their child. So programming for deaf and hard of hearing is difficult to come by. The state does have a few programs, but none within southeastern Massachusetts that are comprehensive as the program through Reed's. So you can see by the numbers that here are our classrooms. Our K1 class has 8 students, and we do have students participating in specials, and 2 attend morning meeting. Grades 2, 3, our classes are multi-grade. We usually have at least 2 grades within the classrooms. Our 2, 3 classroom has 6 students, and 2 are participating in partial inclusion, and all students get to participate in specials. Grades 4, 5, there are 3 students for those for that grade level. There's 1 full inclusion and 1 who's fully included, and 2 students who only attend specials. Grades 6 through 8, we have 8 students. 3 are fully included, 3 partially included, meaning they go out for certain subjects and specials and things like that, and 2 students who only attend specials. Grades 9 through 12, there are 18 students. 5 are included in 6 out of 7 classes, so they have an academic support class separate from full inclusion. It's generally considered full inclusion, 6 out of 7. 3 and 4 out of 7 classes are being included, and 1 and 2 out of 7 classes for total high school numbers. And then we have 7 fully included at BP. As far as staff members that are part of our program, we have 10 full-time teachers. We have 13 full-time specialized assistants. Thanks to the opportunity for inclusive opportunities for our students. When I started, we had 13 or 14 interpreters. That's only a year and a half ago. We now have 17 full-time interpreters and 2 part-time interpreters to be able to provide that access for our students. And we have 4 full-time specialists. That includes SLPs, speech and language pathologists, SLPAs, assistants to speech and language pathologists, and counselor. Here are the building spaces that we currently occupy within your district. We have, I always mispronounce this school's name.
You can just call it JCS.
JCS, okay, thank you. At JCS, we have 3 classrooms. We have a pre-K classroom, we have a classroom for K1 and a classroom for 2-3. We have an additional classroom space that's used for speech and language, literacy, and counseling, kind of break up that area with some dividers. And then there's an additional OT-PT room space, may not be necessarily the full capacity of a classroom. At the Henry A. Yell Elementary, we have 2 classrooms for grades 4 through 5. We have 1 classroom with classroom space, which is housed for our administrative staff, our program director, team chair, secretary, coordinator of and interpretation, etc. And we also have 1 speech, literacy, counseling, all specialist kind of space room. At the Norton Middle School, we occupy 2 classrooms for our grades 6 through 8. There's also 1 additional specialized service space. It's actually 0.5. It's shared with the technology department. And then we have 1 additional OT-PT space. At Norton High School, we have for grades 9 through 12, it's the media room space. It's not really a full classroom, but it is sufficient for the needs that we have. In addition to it, it's like an alcove, and it has 2 other, attached spaces that we use for speech and language, building literacy skills, counseling room spaces. And again, none of those spaces would equal a full classroom size, but they are useful, unique spaces that we access. And at BP, we have some spaces there. Total for building space being accessed, we have 10 classrooms that we access in Norton, and we have 6.5 additional spaces for specialists. And we truly are embedded in the Norton community. We have a student who plays on the basketball team with support through interpretation. We have a cheerleader on your team. We have our students who, my understanding, also are in band in middle school. I believe I've heard woodworking mentioned for an after-school activity. There's a play, I'm not sure which one, but we have a couple of students either participating or helping out with the play. Our students are everywhere, and again, you wouldn't even try out, you wouldn't go for any of these things if you didn't have a level of comfort to even try. So the benefit to that is truly that continuity. They're here from pre-K through high school, so by the time you get to middle school, you have the courage to try out for an activity or an area of interest or an extracurricular. That really means a lot to a student, and that's why, when I first came along, they're like, you really want to preserve that. Not many programs like this have that continuity of pre-K through high school, of getting to know a community and feeling like you're a part of what's going on, and that you develop friendships. Kids know who you are. Here, when the space concerns arise, I did get detailed, and then of course I have myself listed like I'm Bob Dole. For those of you that are my age, you'll know that reference. For those of you who don't, look it up. So when I came on in July, August, I was informed by Dr. Craig, who was my predecessor, the executive director for Reeds, who was in the process of retiring, that DHH, here's the priority for you, Dina. DHH only has a 1-year contract right now in the books, which means that we won't have a place to live after June 24th unless we come up with some plan, hopefully an extension with Norton, because we feel that that's such a strong relationship.
Dina, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in for just a minute, just to save everybody
that would be great.
Big long story. So the biggest concern that I had when I met with Dina was specifically around 2 spaces. Number 1, the high school. Norton High School right now, our Reed students are in what we called at one point the TV studio. It's a very interesting shaped space of 3 smaller rooms that were actually designed during the addition and renovation to be a TV studio for our video and media students. And so it's 3 small little spaces, and it has actually worked very, very well for the DHH program and for their students, because they have little small breakout spaces.
Yep.
But what we are seeing is an increase in our specialized programs at the middle school needing to move on to high school. And as everyone who works at the high school knows, while we just did an addition and renovation 10 years ago, we really weren't looking forward, I think, to some of the needs of, educating students 10 to 15 years down the road. Additionally, JCS, right now we are, pretty much at maximum capacity there. But one of the things that we've found is that we need additional classroom space for some of our best programs in LBC classrooms. And so therefore, when I share that information, and Dina and Rebecca shared that they also need an additional preschool classroom because they're growing, well, 2 + 2 = 4, and we can't make space out of nothing. So I don't want you to worry about going through the whole process, so if you want to talk about the new building.
So
And if
really,
I had to
what it
add-
came down to, and what I explained in the next few slides, were the efforts made and the communication that was ongoing.
And we have been talking through this since Dina
Since
and I both
August of
began our
2023.
Yes, and we actually met in July of '23 because we were both in the new superintendent induction program together. So
Correct.
we've spent a lot of time together.
And I have said to the DHH program, to our staff, because they're like, we don't want to leave. And I said, well, none of us want you to leave. I don't think Norton wants us to leave, and we don't want to leave Norton. But there is a space concern and a space issue. So as we tried to figure out how things could work, and again, I can't say enough wonderful things about the superintendent you have and her level of compassion, as well as wanting to keep this relationship going. I think if it had been a new superintendent in Norton that didn't have the historical perspective of DHH program, I don't think she would have tried as hard, especially as a brand new superintendent, which is a big role, and I've commented my appreciation repeatedly. We did look at different things that we can do. I did my due diligence, and I know Dr. O'Neill did her due diligence. They've toured spaces, we've looked at every nook and cranny, and we were able to work out an extended contract for yet another year, which would conclude now in June 2025. So we were able to squeeze out another year, but with the clear indication that another year after that may not be squeezed because of the needs from both communities, from both programs. And what I did is I tried to find room within our other member districts, and we were not able to be successful with that because everyone is jam-packed. Within our member districts, I reached out to everyone, no one had room. I reached out to non-member districts. I reached out to Mansfield, I reached out to Easton, I reached out, because we also want to stay within a regionalized area. It really became apparent that we really need to think outside the box. And our program director was like, hey, let's see if we can actually find a neutral space, and maybe we can still access a community and bring our kids for inclusive opportunities if we can somehow magically find a place that would be close enough. So we started looking, and like a little Christmas wish, a building did appear right before Christmas break in Norton, and it's only a few miles, not even a mile from JCS, and we looked into it. And I don't want to bore you with everything, all the pieces, sharing it with our board, and expressing the need. The board yesterday did approve for us to go ahead and sign a PNS agreement, and we have executed a PNS agreement as of this afternoon, so I can actually tell you the property is at 399 Old Colony Road, Norton. It's actually next to a very nice bakery, which is probably not a good thing for me, but it will certainly be a wonderful opportunity for the DHH program. It was used as an adult learning facility, so it's already divided into classrooms. It will need some cosmetic upgrades, and again, we've looked into all those pieces and done our due diligence before going into any kind of agreement for it. I can tell you the benefits certainly outweigh our other opportunities. We don't have another place to live. So if we are able to, which we've been approved to purchase this building, which fiscally we are in decent shape as a collaborative to be able to purchase the building. It will be a 5-year loan, and we will be able to move, as of September 2025, all of our classrooms from JCS to free up JCS for your students and your town needs. And we will be able to free up the high school, which I've been referring to as the bookends. What we are planning to do is we still want to give our kids all those inclusive opportunities as much as possible. So we are going to also be purchasing 2 vans through Reed, so we'll manage our own transportation for these 2 vehicles. And we already have staff that have volunteered. We have people that will be able to be licensed to drive these vans. And we, through our good relationship and talking to staff and administration, we have the support of the Norton administration to carefully work through a schedule so we can minimize the transportation of our students, so our students can be included, say, everything they need is in the morning and then they come to us in the afternoon for a little bit. Or, you know, whatever the student needs based on their IEP, we are going to carefully orchestrate by making sure that they access that. Maybe our students get dropped off, as they normally do in vans, and they get included, and then we go pick them up for whatever portions they need outside of your buildings. Again, for those grades 4 through 8, appears to be sufficient space and projections look good. When I spoke with Dr. O'Neill, that we could carve out a 3-year contract. When we looked at that, and we looked at, that is the picture of the building. When we looked at the expenses, we currently were projecting that we would pay Norton for a rental fee for the FY budget of $130,000 for the spaces. And what we discussed with our business manager, and meeting with Dr. O'Neill and her business manager, and also meeting with Ms. Russo, is that we want to make sure that we're not gypping any of you, because we are accessing your curriculum. We are accessing your inclusive practices. That we, in discussing it with my business manager, we're like, all right, $130,000 for the spaces. We're not going to need some of those spaces because we no longer need JCS and we won't need the high school, but we want those inclusive opportunities for our students. What would be the fairest way? Because we want to make sure that we're compensating our partners. And it was discussed that we would pay 50% per pupil cost for for the students. So in other words, instead of like nickel and diming, okay, this student is only going for 2 classes, and that's going to be this portion of per pupil, and you know what I mean, and doing those kinds of things, just flat out, every one of our students that's tied to Norton, we would pay 50% of the per pupil cost, and that means like our preschool, our K through 12 students that are going to be accessing it. And that actually means that the funding for next year would be $229,908. So you would actually keep your classes, but you'd be getting more money for including our students, if that makes sense.
And we're still working through the contract. We haven't signed anything yet.
We haven't
So
signed
we're still-
anything.
Yep.
We would really like a 3-year contract so people could sleep at night, but
So I just wanted to mention that
Yeah,
nothing
no.
has been kind of
No, nothing
finalized
has
yet,
been.
and we're still working through that. But it's been, as Mrs. Madero said, it's been a great partnership to kind of think about creative ways to keep Reeds here in district and to continue to have them as part of our school community.
And ideally, we would love to stay in Norton. If it turns out that you can't continue to house us and we need to be able to maybe try and be included in another community, it gives us a little more time to be able to do that as well. There are a couple of other member districts that would love to have the program and have said, gee, we love the program, we love Reads, we just don't have the room, but we are in the process of building a school. We may be able to in 2 to 3 years. We're redistricting based on a building that we just were able to get in one of our districts, and they said, we just need time to redistrict what we're doing and settle ourselves. We may be able to take on some of the programming. So there's never any security when you're a collaborative, because you do rely on being able to be welcomed and accepted in different communities if you're going to give your students those inclusive opportunities. And our students, for the most part, they do have multiple disabilities sometimes. Sometimes they, have the hearing loss or are deaf and may have a learning disability. But many times they're very typical students like anyone else. They just happen to have a hearing impairment. So we want to be able to be in a community that provides those inclusive services. Ideally, that's what we want.
So as Mrs. Madero said, we are going to be working with them. The board just approved yesterday the purchase of this building. So this is, basically hot off the presses. I'm sure you guys went right to work as soon as we got off that call. But what we'll be looking to do is looking at the student schedules at Norton High School and figuring out a way that they don't have to come back and forth from this new space multiple times a day. And we've also, made the commitment that they will have a space while they're there. It just might fluctuate from block to block based on what is available. So they would have a space if students are not included in a classroom, but the way the schedule rotates and flips, that they need to hang out for an hour before their next class, or have their academic supports, we can do that within our own space. We'll do the same thing at JCS for these students. As you saw at the beginning of the presentation, a lot of them are all included in specials. So perhaps we are placing them in classrooms where we'll have to be creative with the schedule and be strategic. Okay, this third grade classroom and this second grade classroom are all going to have specials at the same time, just to kind of help with that scheduling piece. We're very fortunate that not only is it right next to Flaky Crust Pies, but it is literally about a 3-minute drive from JCS to their new building. So I really, as Mrs. Madero said, like having the inclusion opportunities for the Reads students is so important. And for those of us who are educators that have seen this program over the years and what impact it has on our school community, for our Norton students, for the Reed students, it's just an incredible program, and I really did not want to see it walk out the door. So there is going to be a lot of collaborative planning in the coming months as we're finalizing what this is going to look like. The Yale and the middle school are going to remain as is for the time being, and then we will, as things come up, and if we'll go from there.
Administration that is currently taking space at the Yale will actually be at the new building. So they will have the administration there. So that actually frees up an additional space there.
Yeah. So and that's great too, because as you said, it frees up another space, and maybe we can do something with that.
Anybody has any questions?
Concerns?
No, I think this has always been a positive partnership. I've been around as long as I've been on the board here. And I think, maybe you remember this, Dr. and maybe you share it. I believe we did a survey of students on like world language offerings a few years back, and ASL is by far the top choice, because a lot of our students, being compassionate, wanted a way to better communicate with our guests. Mm-hmm. Not that they were treated like guests, but they knew that they had disabilities, and unfortunately we weren't able to work something out to kick off that, but maybe that's a future plan. But it was I remember the presentation, it was overwhelming to see not only are our students accepting, our guests, but now they want to be really in tune with them and become able to communicate with them. So it was upsetting when we couldn't get the program kicked off, but it was a remarkable, occurrence that our students wanted to take things further with some of our guests.
So
And it's
That's
also
nice to hear.
been wonderful because over the years, Reed's has offered a number of times free sign language classes for Norton staff. And I know a large percentage of our staff have at least taken the very intro one, so that's really amazing as well.
Any other questions? Concerns?
I think the first thing is I'm glad that there's a logistical plan to obviously keep the kids included, within Norton Public Schools, if you will. Jen, Christine, I guess, what does this kind of mean for FY26 budget, and then obviously 3 years down the road? What is this all going to look like?
So as I mentioned earlier, nothing has been finalized in terms of the contract, but we're working, Christine has taken the lead on this with the business manager from Reed's, Lindsay, and they've been working, back and forth on this. So ultimately, what it would mean is that we would be taking in funds, not necessarily through facilities as we have in the past, but instead through that tuition line. I believe the committee may recall a couple meetings ago where we talked about that one student we have from Dayton Rehoboth that attends one of our specialized programs, and we accepted tuition from Dayton Rehoboth in order to have that student here. That would be very similar to the way that we set this up. But those are logistics that, quite honestly, until the contract's settled, we haven't kind of really looked at it too much. And it's important to note that while we will be taking in money from tuitions, we will be losing money in rentals. So it's definitely a benefit, I think, for everyone involved. But until we really finalize those numbers, it's hard to kind of say.
And then what is I'm just reading this quickly, like it says Norton per pupil assumptions, just call it $230,000 using 50%. So I'm assuming 50% is going to Reed's, 50% potentially is coming to Norton, is that correct?
Correct.
And then that number, $230,000, is divided by the...
Number 45
Yeah, so the
students.
number of students that are included in the program.
So what does that equal out to for...
I have to
Per
go back
pupil,
and
I'd
double
have to
check.
go back and look.
We
I
used the
should've-
number that was on the DESI website.
It's the foundation budget per pupil, it's not the 18,000.
So, okay. What do we have, 45 in the program? So it's a little,
Well-
so it's basically,
You also are taking out the preschoolers because they won't be accessing anything.
true.
So you're taking out
But
the
give or take probably around
non-preschoolers.
$5,000.
So
There's
now
no-
you're looking at like 36 students, if you're going by the
Okay.
current estimate of who we have now. And what we determined was you can only estimate by what you currently have for population.
Correct. So we're using like current numbers to assess for next year, and then similar to the way we do school choice. But as Dina mentioned, as Christine mentioned, it is the foundational budget per pupil. That is a number from the Department of Education.
Okay. I'll wait for my other questions until we have something a little bit more finalized. Anything else? Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Ms. Majeros.
I don't know how to get
You
off
can
of
just leave
this.
it.
All right, I was not hired for my tech skills.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Rachel Kearney. I'm an inclusion teacher at Norton High School. And I just wanted to take a minute to offer our condolences to Dina and to all of the staff at Reed's and their students. They had a very untimely death in their program about a month ago. Andrew Kemp, who was a very valued member of the Reed's program, the Norton High School community, passed away very unexpectedly. And it was a devastating loss to his colleagues, his students, his family. I was lucky enough, I worked with him this year. He was a Reed's teacher in a geometry class where we have several sophomores in the Reed's program. He was a wonderful person. He was a very valued colleague. And so we just sort of wanted to take this moment to offer our condolences again to all of the staff in Reed's, all of the students. I think it's my understanding most of the students that he worked with, he had worked with along the years. So he had, these kids had been working with him for most of their time in the Norton Public Schools. So it was a very devastating loss to the program. We will miss him,
the students will miss him, the staff will miss him, so we just wanted to again say we're very sorry for the loss.
Thank you so much for that. And on that note, when you are hurting, and all of you know because you've lost...
Can you just, sorry, the camera can't pick it up.
Camera can't hear you, sorry.
Thank you so much for that. Very much a difficult loss for DHH, and your community has also experienced quite a bit of loss this year. And I can't tell you what a support it was, because I got a call right away from Dr. O'Neill, from Mr. Cersei, we call him Vinny, and the staff, the leadership staff, pouring out not only their condolences, but offering their resources, and it was greatly, greatly appreciated. Again, can't thank you enough, and all of you for being part of your community. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up too. Anything else? We good? All right, next on is the superintendent evaluation discussion and vote. So this is my first time doing this, so I quickly spoke to Jen about it earlier today. So everyone's seen obviously you guys all did your individual evaluations, and then I also, I compiled them all and put them together. Just for the public record, I'll kind of walk through a little bit quickly. We have to, by law, I guess, evaluate the superintendent during each year. We've obviously moved this time up a little bit, just so the members who are on the board with our town election being at the end of April, we try to move it up to April. That way the 5 of us who are sitting here can actually do this correctly. It is a little awkward because this is the only position that we have to review in public. Lucky you, Jen.
Lucky me.
But basically we did a summary evaluation report from DESE. We just basically go through exactly where Jen's at. I'll just kind of quickly go through some of this. Her biggest things: professional practice goals, student learning goals, and district improvement. She met all of her professional practice, her student learning goals, and her district improvement goals, which I'll go through a little bit more in depth. Both got significant progress. She was proficient across many standards: instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement. We actually gave her exemplary there. Professional culture, proficient. Just reading some of the comments from the school committee members, and again, I'm not going to read all of these. We'll probably, do we post this somewhere?
Yeah, so it will be posted. It's actually already in the packet online.
Perfect. So
You
if you
guys
really,
can read it ahead of
yes,
time.
correct. So if you guys really want to go into that and go through, that's great. I just think some of these things that I think are very important. Dr. O'Neill has demonstrated strong leadership and effectiveness across several key areas over this past year. One of her notable strengths is her deep commitment to community engagement through consistent outreach, open communication, and active participation in local events and forums. She's continued to build meaningful relationships with families, students, educators, and community stakeholders. This has definitely strengthened the trust and collaborations throughout the district. Obviously, with our financial stuff, we mentioned the strong grasp. If you sat through our budget hearings of how much clearer they were laid out, that's a credit to Dr. O'Neill and obviously Mrs. Hatfield and the admin team and overall. One of the growths that we would like to see is a little bit more of organizational management, continued efforts to establish clearer systems, define accountability, especially around student behavior and teacher attendance, and streamline procedures to help enhance the district's overall effectiveness and align daily operations with a broader strategic vision. Which brings me to my next point of the strategic planning committee has now met twice, so that's another step in the right direction, if you will. In summary, Dr. O'Neill remains a strong asset to the district, demonstrating leadership through her community connections, fiscal responsibility, and innovation approach to problem solving. What else is kind of important on here? We obviously go through all of her goals that she set up. She's in a pretty good spot, whether it be proficient or definitely progressing. I don't think we have too much more. Obviously, Dr. O'Neill continues to do a good job with instructional leadership. We have seen more growth in year 2. And obviously having the assistant superintendent, Dr. Ackerman, kind of settling into his role as well, working with many of you out there with the new curriculums. We kind of expect that instructional leadership area to continue to grow and reach new heights. Obviously, talking about the budget, from sitting here for 3 years, and I think Dan and Sherry will definitely agree. Just seeing the progressive, making it clearer to read, not just a huge Excel file with a bunch of line items and everything else. Jen and Christine have done a phenomenal job, I think, definitely this year and even last year, just kind of highlighting exactly where we're at and what we need to do. So I think our biggest thing is that she does a great job with our community engagement between the newsletters, constant communication. She probably not well, she kind of has that open door policy, so whether it be, school committee member individually, teachers, parents, community members in general. She does a great job in terms of making sure people are heard and hearing their concerns or hopefully some of their positive feedback. Anything else anybody wants to add? Great job, Jen.
Great job.
Thank you. Just be grateful you guys don't have to do this publicly. So awkward. Thank you all.
Next up is, which is actually kind of good timing, I guess, is a vote to approve the superintendent's contract.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Sorry to vote. Good call, thank you. Right here. I will entertain a motion to approve Dr. O'Neill's evaluation.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Now moving on, vote to approve the superintendent's contract. So part of Jen's contract is within the language. She obviously is signed a 3-year deal back in 2023. Yes, 2023. So 23, 24, 24, 25. She would still be in that same contract for next year, which would be the same contract that we've had with the same amount of salary and all that fun stuff. This contract is actually extending Jen for another 3 years after next year. So basically this gets us to a point where Jen will be with us for the next 4 years, barring something crazy happens, but we don't see that happening. And hopefully she doesn't leave us. I guess, can I take this over to you? Or what do you want? Do we just vote on this? What do you want me to do?
We can talk through what the terms of the contract were if you want to, or we can just say it will be published online later, after. It's not really a big secret, everything's public record, but ultimately, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to stay in Norton. All of you know that I've spent my entire career here. It's a little bit crazy to think that when this contract ends, it will be June of 2029. And I will have a college sophomore and a high school sophomore. So that is just, as my friend Karen Winsper says, banana pants. But grateful to the school committee for giving me this opportunity to continue my work.
And like I said, the language-wise and everything else didn't really change too much. So if you are interested in seeing it, all the contracts for all of our non-union admin and our union contracts as well are on our Norton Public Schools website. I will entertain a motion to approve superintendent employment contract from July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2029.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Perfect. I just saw Allison walk in, which is great. So we'll go back to our number 7. Acknowledgement and vote to accept donations of AEDs to Norton Public Schools.
Allison, if you could come join us at the podium, that would be great. So I want to welcome our wellness committee member.
Not to cut you off, but the important thing is, did you win? Oh, okay.
Did you have fun?
Some of us did.
Okay, there you go. I want to welcome our wellness committee member, Allison Drad, who also works for the American Heart Association. And earlier this year, she approached Norton Public Schools in conjunction with Sisters of Heart and Senator Paul Feeney to help us procure AEDs for the outside areas of Norton Public Schools. We're super excited that we have I believe 7 that are coming, and
a total of
9.
So yeah.
So we'll have outdoor AEDs at Norton High School, one kind of over near the multi-purpose field, one over near the snack shack, and then
one behind the Yale by the tennis courts.
One behind the Yale near the tennis courts. We'll also have one near out back of JCS, near the softball field. 2 at Norton Middle School, 1 in the back for the soccer fields, and then 1 closer to the front tennis courts, pickleball court, playground. And so this is really amazing. The AEDs were donated as well as the outside, they're like weatherproof containers, so they can be outside whether it's 100 degrees outside or -10. And we've actually had a few issues in the last year or two at our own events where we had the AED used at JCS earlier this year. We had one used at a football game a few years ago. So it's so important to have these devices accessible. They save lives. So I'd like to, number one, thank Allison and her work and the Sisters of Heart. For approaching us with this idea and this donation, and I'd like to offer her some time to speak about the organizations.
Thank you so much, and I'm sorry I was late coaching a baseball game. That I would just say on behalf of both the Heart Association and Sisters at Heart, and I'm sorry they couldn't be here actually, one of them was undergoing heart surgery actually, so they couldn't be here. They've worked really hard. They started in North Attleboro and Attleboro, and then I had been working with them and asked them to come to Norton. My son is a third grader at the LG and plays a lot of sports, so I have always been really passionate about this and had been bringing it forward to the sports boards, but obviously there's a price to that, so I'd just like to thank Senator Feeney in particular, who has worked for the last couple of years to get a specific line item in the budget for these defibrillators. I really do hope that we never have to use them on the fields. That would be my hope. But they are there if they're being accessible. They'll be open at all times, like Dr. O'Neill said, they're in these secure boxes. You can call 911. The location will be on the box, so you'll be able to tell EMS and fire where you are, and hopefully they'll get there. Even at the quickest response they can be, it will still be really important to start CPR and have the defibrillators available. We know that it can happen whether it's someone that goes into sudden cardiac arrest or gets struck in the chest and goes into cardiac arrest. It's really important to have them. So I'm very thankful that Norton was open to this and can't wait to have all the fields covered. So thank you. I appreciate the support.
Thank you, Allison. And these will all be installed the week after April vacation. So spring sports are starting up, and I think there was a little bit of a delay getting them up, but we are scheduled for the week after break. So thank you so much. This is an incredible donation. I am extremely grateful. It was a very easy thing to say yes to, and that doesn't always happen. So thank you.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough for the work. Obviously it's a huge benefit to Norton Public Schools, but I think also just the Norton community in general. As Dr. O'Neill alluded to, you had 2 incidents in the last 2 years. Both of them were people who were visiting, and watching their kids' games or grandkids' games and whatnot. So just so super, thank you so much for the work that you did on this, because it is so very important. All right, we do have to vote to accept that. So I will entertain a motion to accept the new AEDs at our schools and fields.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. All right, and last but not least, obviously, Mrs. Sherry Cohen is our last meeting with us. She's not seeking re-election, and our town election is, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. Sherry's been obviously a great friend, even a mentor. Coming on to school committee, she's been at this for a long time. Her heart is, we're definitely going to make her cry now. She's been, a wonderful colleague up here with us. Her heart's always in the right place and has always tried to do exactly what's best for our students in the town of Norton. So can't thank Sherry enough, but I'll turn it over to Dr. O'Neill.
I think Nick said it very well. Sherry has been a member of the school committee since 2016. And one of the things that Sherry always says when we're having difficult conversations is, I want to do what's best for the students of Norton. And throughout the course of her 9 years as a school committee member, she has always brought that to the forefront of the work that we do here. She always puts kids first. And I have been very grateful to have Sherry on my team during my last few years as a superintendent, but also she's a wonderful friend and a wonderful person to have in your corner. So I have something for her, so I'll come up over here and she's gonna come and join me. We've apparently got a sign and flowers.
More of an Irish goodbye kind of.
So we have a plaque here and it says, in appreciation, Norton Public Schools recognizes Sherry Cohen for her dedication to the students of Norton as a school committee member from 2016 to 2025. And then you have to take a picture with your sign.
Beach!
You want me to share it?
If you don't want to talk, I'll talk.
If you don't want to, we will, Sherry, so that's your decision.
Thank you. Honestly, I thought people were here for school choice conversation, so I'm a little surprised. I knew when my friend Robin showed up that something was up. It's been a good 9 years. We've had our ups and downs, but at the end of the day, like Jen said, I really tried to do everything the best I could for our students. I'm proud of the work that we've done. I'm proud of the friends that I've made. They're lifelong friends. And that's it, really. I just want to thank you guys. It's been a great run. Thank you.
If we haven't seen a tear yet, we're gonna get there. Let's go, Sherry, we can do this. Shannon Taylor, JCS. I served as president of the Norton Teachers Association for 5 years. It felt like all of those years were COVID years, but a significant amount were. And we're gonna talk someday about like before COVID and after COVID. We kind of already do that now. But I think being a school committee member during COVID, being any person that was public facing and having to make very difficult decisions in the moment with random information coming in from all different places and all different sides, and you're hearing from your neighbors what they need and you're hearing from some of the scientists, we're hearing from this and that. You led with your heart throughout all of that, and at the end of every conversation it was, okay, so what are we gonna do next, and where do we go move forward? It was never that we're gonna stay in one place. And that's something that I've always appreciated about you in the past 9 years that you've been doing this, but in my experience with you, it was never where do we stop, it's how do we keep going and how do we keep moving forward. But you always had that great lens on of leading with your heart, and you can see it. When you talk about the different things that come up, different items that come up, you haven't just skimmed over it. You've read it, you've asked questions, I know you've asked me questions, I know other people here have said, Sherry will reach out, she'll ask us, what do you think of this? What else is going on with this? She's not afraid of the conversations at Blue Ball Fields or other things where people might not agree with everything that you do here. Because as much as I know how much those decisions weighed on you, because we had those conversations together, you still led with your eyes forward and where do we go? What's coming forward? I'm not. There's something about being a teacher and looking at a school committee and not really knowing, do they understand what I do? Do they really get what my job is and how I can love it and be drained by it in the same moment? I love my job. but there's some days that are hard. But to know that there are people that are sitting on the other side that are making those decisions that also can see that pressure because they feel it themselves too. There's something really beautiful about that, Sherry, and you can't, it's just a mold that you've created that I'm not sure how to fill. I just need you to know how much it has meant for the tears, for crying when things are exciting, and for getting we've been through a lot together, and I know you guys have a thankless job where you're getting paid nothing to do this, all 5 of you, right? You're here on your own volition, you're reading all these things, you're putting yourself publicly out there for criticism, for whatever it is, and you've done it with such humility and grace. I love you, Sherry, and I hope the best for you. I hope that another night like this, I mean, Dinesh got to see a beautiful building another night, so that was good. You'll come back and see us. But you truly are something special. Thank you.
Anybody else? All good?
No.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Vinny Searcy, I guess I'm going to be here as 13 Briggs Street, Norton, Mass, because one of the things that Sherry did beyond working in the school committee, both as a parent and which impacted our lives. And now I might get tearful, that doesn't happen. But also as a director of counseling, is her work with ITech and the impact that had on so many people in this town. And she carried that forward despite also being here and doing all the things as school committee. And I think it would be remiss for us not to take a moment to thank you at this time for that, because again, both as director of counseling, as a member of the community who was impacted by that, I can't thank you enough. And so many families, I'm sure, would say the same thing. So, and I know you don't like that.
I'm good.
Alrighty.
Fourth.
What's that?
I just gave Sherry a hard time. Oh, Peter.
Oh, Peter, sorry.
Here we go. Peter Wiggins, the mayor of Norton, and thank you, Sherry, for your 9 years on the school committee. You fought hard for the kids in Norton, and you did very well in your 9 years, and I thank you very much from the mayor of Norton. I will still see you around the rinks at Covenant Lancers hockey games. Thank you. Thank you, Sherry, again.
I think we could be here all night praising Sherry. I met Sherry, gotta be 15 years ago, when she was starting out Parks and Rec. I may, with Dinesh, have had some conversations with her about joining school committee 9 years ago, so I guess I apologize. It's been a privilege to sit here with Sherry for 9 years. We've had spirited discussions, we've had knockdown dragouts, we've had laughs, she's had tears. But her humility and her ability to really do what's best for our 2,200 students is remarkable. And it has been an absolute privilege to be here with you for 9 years.
Thank you. I'll tell you, it is not easy for me to sit here and listen to all of this stuff because I don't do any of this for any of this. I do it because I genuinely care about people. So to sit here and listen to this and not be hysterically crying right now and just like the way I am right now, I just want to thank each and every one of you. Honestly, it truly means a lot. I saw it on the agenda and I thought, oh Jen, do we really have to do this? For you guys to take time out of your nights to be here to do this for me and the things that you've said, I do truly appreciate it, and I thank each and every one of you. Thank you.
All right, other business.
Nothing for me.
Just a few quick reminders. Obviously, annual town election next Saturday, April 26th. And our next meeting is Wednesday, April 30th, back in this room at 6 o'clock. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Can I second it?
So moved.
Second.
I like it. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you all.
Night.